Hello, and welcome to the Green Bay Packer Hall of Fame. Regardless of where you're from, if you cheer for the green and gold, you're among friends. Packer fans share a common bond. You can really say they're my team because you and I are the Packers. Through lean years and championship seasons, you've taken the Packers into your lives and your hearts. You're the greatest asset the Packers have. Thank you for caring so much since 1919, and now please enjoy the show.
There is a special mystique about the Green Bay Packers. The relationship with their fans. The city of Green Bay. The Packers' place in NFL history is different than any other team's.
Picked out our seats before the concrete was even poured. There was just gravel in this area, and we said we'd like to sit in this area. And that's pretty much where we're sitting today, which is 1957, so it's almost 40 years.
What is the Packers' mystique? Is it winning 11 NFL championships? Is it the players?
My daughter was born, I went and got her on the season ticket waiting list a couple of weeks after she was born. She was number 10,000 and something, and I knew that when my son was born 2.5 years later, I better get there the day after he was born to make sure that I insured his spot on the season ticket waiting list, and he's number 13,000 and something.
The fans.
When you move to Green Bay, you can't imagine the impact of a big-time sport on a small town unless you're in the community. It's part of their blood. I mean, it affects the whole mood of the city. A win and everybody's up, and a loss and, ooh, Monday's a bad day. I mean, it's definitely a love affair between a football team and the people of its city.
Love affair is a good word for it. I've never seen people have such a passion about anything in their lives except their families, but they have that passion for the Packers.
The love affair officially began on August 11th, 1919, when Curly Lambeau and George Calhoun, a sports editor for the Green Bay Press-Gazette, founded the team. With Calhoun's encouragement, Lambeau convinced the Indian Packing Company to purchase uniforms for the new team. Most fans began calling their team by their nickname, Packers. Their home field was a vacant lot called Hagemeister Park, but the team was good. In their first year, their record was 10 wins and 1 loss.
We were playing in our backyard, and one of the kids said there's a game out to the park. So we said, let's go and see it. So we went out to the park, and that was the first Packer game. And the Packers were playing Michigan, Menominee, Michigan, and the Packers beat them 56-0.
Community leaders were important. They kept the Packers in business. They raised money and interest in the struggling team by selling shares of stock. The Packers are owned by 1,915 stockholders representing 4,634 shares. If the assets of the Packers were sold, they'd go to the Green Bay American Legion Post or other Wisconsin charities. Meanwhile, player-coach Curly Lambeau was building a team. Lambeau had a knack for identifying talent and attracting players to Little Green Bay. He knew how to mold them into a winner. But despite success on the field, some people thought that Green Bay was too small for the growing league. They underestimated the team and the community. In 1929, the Packers went to New York to play the Giants at the Polo Grounds. Sports writers joked about tiny Green Bay competing against the powerhouse Giants. But the Packers got the last laugh. They beat the Giants 20-6. They finished the year undefeated and brought the NFL championship home to Green Bay for the first time. That night, despite bitter cold, 6,000 fans carrying torches lit the team's way as the train pulled into the city.
Contrary to popular belief, we don't have winter and summer here like other places. We got 2 seasons here instead of 4. We have the Packer season, and then we have the rest of the year.
The glory days of 1929 continued for the Packers and their fans. The Packers won again in 1930 and 1931, making it 3 championships in a row under Curly Lambeau. Packer teams of that era are a list of all-time greats. Lineman Mike Machowski, Cal Hubbard, and Jug Earp. Running backs Vern Llewellyn, Johnny Blood McNally, and quarterback Red Dunn. In the 1930s, Clark Hinkle and others carried on the championship tradition.
The old NFL was hand it off to the fullback and see how far you can push the ball, but Curly advanced the ball with the forward pass. I can remember as a youngster going out to old Rockwood Lodge, which was a kind of a resort here on the Green Bay, and watching them practice. Curly Lambeau would have the receivers come out and actually come into a Y and shake hands in the middle as they were running top speed and then break off. He was very innovative in those types of things.
In 1930, Lambeau signed one of the great passers of all time, from right here in Green Bay, Barney Herber. Herber could throw a football 80 yards with pinpoint accuracy. In 1935, Lambeau signed a skinny kid from Alabama, All-American end Don Hudson. Hudson had an incredible combination of speed, precision, and ingenuity. The Packers and the Brooklyn Dodgers football team both signed Hudson to contracts on the same day. Both contracts were mailed to the league office, and President Joe Carr awarded Hudson to the Packers because their letter was postmarked earlier. In the second game of the 1935 season, the Packers and Bears met in Green Bay. On the first play from scrimmage, Herber lofted a long pass. Don Hudson was wide open for his first NFL touchdown. Hudson set dozens of records, many of which still exist today. The Packers continued to win championships in 1936, 39, and 44.
The Packers, they really put us on the map. Like, all the important cities or towns are in bold letters. And like, if we didn't have the Packers here, Green Bay wouldn't be in bold letters. It probably wouldn't even be on the map.
In 1948, the Packers suffered through the first losing season in 15 years, and only its second in history. A year later, Curly Lambeau, Hall of Fame player coach and the Packers' driving force since their beginning, resigned to coach the Chicago Cardinals. It was time for the franchise to move on without Lambeau. In the late 40s, football was changing. The Packers found themselves in financial trouble.
Well, I know they had an inter-squad game on, I think it was Thanksgiving Day. I went to the game and it was raining. I was at the old Packer Stadium, but you know, this was unheard of to have an inter-squad game during the season. Your team is racked up bad enough, but in order to raise some money, that was one of the things they did.
A stock drive conducted throughout Wisconsin and Upper Michigan raised another $125,000. Even with stable finances and enthusiastic fans, victories in the 1950s were scarce. The Packers had their share of stars at this time, players like quarterbacks Tobin Rote and Babe Parilli, Billy Houghton from Rice University, and Bob Mann. But still, they continued to lose. In 1957, the Packers moved into New City Stadium. In 1965, it was renamed Lambeau Field. In 1957, the Packers won only 3 games. The following year, 1958, their record sank to an all-time low, of 1 victory, 10 losses, and 1 tie. In February 1959, the Packers selected a new head coach and general manager, Vincent Lombardi.
Prior to his arrival in Green Bay, we felt as players that we had the core of a winning organization, that we had the talent, and that what we lacked was leadership.
Lombardi was a motivator and inspired many people beyond the Packers to excellence. From the start, he taught blocking and tackling fundamentals. More importantly, he instilled mental toughness in the Packers. They learned how to win. In his first season, 1959, the Packers finished with 7 wins, the Packers' best record in 12 years, and a return to respectability. The Packers appeared in 3 straight NFL championship games, losing to the Philadelphia Eagles in 1960, but winning the next 2 against the Giants in 61 and 62. In 1965, the Packers began the drive to regain the title of NFL champions. The Packers beat the Baltimore Colts in sudden death overtime at Lambeau Field, then dominated the Cleveland Browns in the championship game.
Takes the ball, hands off to Hunting. Quick to the left side, he's got the block, he's inside the 10, he's at the 5, cuts it in the end zone, touchdown!
In 1966, the Packers beat the Cowboys for their 2nd consecutive championship. The Packers won the first AFL-NFL championship game, which quickly became known as the Super Bowl. In 1967, the Packers overcame injuries and adversity to win the Central Division, then overpowered the Los Angeles Rams to win the Western Conference. The Packers' rematch with the Dallas Cowboys is forever etched in NFL history.
I don't remember the wind chill, but I would imagine it was in the below 30s.
Well,
because
45.
It was, is that what it was, Mike?
45 below wind chill. It was 15 below 0, and the chill factor then was 45 degrees below 0. Yep, that I remember.
We must have been crazy.
Just before the game was going to start, one of my favorite stories was in my memory of the ice bowl. My wife and I were in this sleeping bag, and we're all snuggling in there, and the wind is whipping through. And we looked over to our right, and here's a gal that had to be from Dallas. She couldn't have possibly been from the Green Bay area, because she's standing there in open-toed shoes. She had a silky cocktail dress on and a little mink shawl, and she was absolutely purple from the cold before the game even started.
When I stepped in the huddle in that final drive and looked into the eyes of my teammates, I knew then I didn't have to say one word to them, and I didn't. I just called the first play and we began.
The dramatic final drive. Against the frigid weather. the ice-covered field. And the Cowboy doomsday defense. Was capped with Bart Starr's quarterback sneak with just 13 seconds remaining.
That was a long New Year's Eve. Yeah, it's kind of lasted for probably about a good day to a day and a half. I can't remember New Year's Day coming. I just remember New Year's Eve.
The Packers won an unprecedented third straight NFL championship and went on to their second consecutive Super Bowl victory against the Oakland Raiders.
The Packers really have a lot of accomplishments. They have a lot of NFC championships won, and they have the 2 Super Bowls, the first 2. So I think a big part of Green Bay would be missing if the Packers would never have been here.
After Super Bowl II, Vince Lombardi resigned as head coach. He stayed another year in the role of general manager. In 1969, he signed to coach the Washington Redskins.
This man lived out every single day of his life a quest for excellence.
After Coach Lombardi, the Packers tried to recapture their championship glory. But it was a real struggle filled with some ups and a lot of downs. 5 men tried hard, but couldn't get the Packers to their old championship-winning ways. There were some bright moments. The 1972 Central Division winning team and the 1982 playoffs. And there were some excellent players. The running of John Brockington, Willie Buchanan picking off a pass, Johnny Gray hitting a receiver, Lynn Dickey throwing to James Lofton and Paul Kaufman, and JJ. That's John Jefferson. Ezra Johnson sacking a quarterback. Tim Harris, too. Then there was Don Makowski and the Cardiac Pack in 1989. The Packers won 7 games by less than 2 points a game. Somehow, Makowski would complete a pass, or Chris Jackie would kick a field goal, and the Packers would pull it out.
Here's the ball down. The kick is on the way. The kick is good.
They beat the Bears that year.
Makowski with the snap. Back with some time. Looking. Now stepping up. On the run. He's going to have to throw it in the end zone. Throw it on. And touchdown.
And the 49ers in San Francisco.
Pressure on a quarterback draw. And he's got a first down and a touchdown. And they were going to run that play, Jim.
The people that we brought in, Ron Wolf and Mike Holmgren, have done just a tremendous job to turn this team around. And I credit Bob Harlan with the foresight in picking out these people. They've really restored Packer football back to what it was in the 60s and back to what it was in the 30s and 40s under Lambeau.
Wolf and Harlan felt that the team had stalled in its progress to the next level. At the end of the 1991 season, Wolf began a careful search for a new head coach. Wolf's choice was an assistant at San Francisco, Mike Holmgren. The changes immediately paid off.
Second down play. Favre on the handoff. Little slant play to Workman. Workman touchdown. Broke a tackle at the 2.
In 1992, the Packers improved to 9-7, behind the 300 completions by quarterback Brett Favre. Wolf was NFL Executive of the Year, Holmgren Coach of the Year. It was the beginning at long last of a new Packer success story. In 1993, the Packers signed NFL free agency's biggest prize, defensive end Reggie White. Reggie became a major boost to the Packer franchise on and off the field. The Packers beat the Detroit Lions in the 1994 wild card round of the playoffs. Hosting the game, the Packers defense held Lion running back Barry Sanders to an amazing -1 yard.
No matter where I go in the world, I wear Packer shirts and paraphernalia, and there are Packer fans all over the world because we were always the underdog. They recognize you're smaller. How can you compete with New York and Los Angeles and those big teams? And we used to just delight in beating those big name teams.
The 1995 Packers were NFC Central Division champions for the first time since 1972. And their 11-5 record was their best showing since 1966.
Finally arrived, the day we've waited for, I guess, for about 29 years now.
The return to glory came with the 1996 Packers, who beat the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 31.
From the goal line to the 5, to the 10, to the 15, through a hole to the 20, to the 30, outside to the 40. He may be gone. Midfield to the 40, the 30, the 25, 20, the 10, 5. Touchdown for Desmond Howard. It is either 99 or 100 yards.
They brought the Vince Lombardi Trophy home to Titletown.
World champion, Green Bay Packers. Look at this celebration. Is this heaven or what?
The Super Bowl champs, the Green Bay Packers. Only one of the early NFL town teams survived, and they became the winningest team in league history.
It's just it's pride of a little town, that's all.
The last real home team in America. The Green Bay Packers.